Hello, everybody. This is a Lamley Showcase Hot Wheels 2020. I'm going to say 2024, but I think this was meant for 2023. So let's start again. Hot Wheels 2024? Question mark? Car Culture Exotic Envy. This came from Mattel. It is the next mix of Car Culture. We'll call it 24. Obviously, some of you might be going, John, it's 2024. We're all good. But I know that there were some mixes for 2023 delayed. And I would have normally said this is a holdover for 2023, but they have added the gold premium trim to this packaging, to the card backs here, which is new for 2024. I talked about this in a previous video about the new Silver Series, differentiating those kind of mid-tier plastic wheels, maybe metal chassis, but full deco models that they've been releasing as store exclusives. From premium like Car Culture, Boulevard, Fast and Furious, Premium, so on and so forth, Team Transport. And we talked enough about that. I think it's great for the Silver Series to kind of tie all of that together so you kind of know what you're getting there and that price point. I don't think it's necessary to put the gold trim on these. I think it just takes away from what is already fantastic art and kind of adds an element that I just don't like it. It's not end of the world. It's not a huge deal, to be perfectly honest. The artwork is still great. I just don't think that Car Culture needs it. And anyway, that's just my thoughts. So let's get through this. Let's talk about this mix. I'll open these up and we'll put them on the turntable here, and I'll edit that in. But I want to talk about this. We'll look at the card art. Exotic Envy, I think, is hitting in Europe right now. It should be hitting in the U.S. very, very soon. And I thought because of the Exotic, and maybe we'll compare it to the previous. This is the third time they've done the Exotic Envy mix. The thing that's interesting about this is that for a long time with Car Culture, I heard from so many people, and I know Mattel did too, a lot of collectors, especially collectors out in Asia. And I remember a lot from Malaysia. I was trying to think all the different places, but it seemed like a lot of the younger collectors were going like, hey, we need to get the supercars represented, Lamborghini, not Ferraris, unfortunately, McLaren, whatever, in a mix, and Mattel did it. But I kind of think that it's been somewhat of a disappointment based on the collector response to it. So let's go through these and then we'll kind of compare and contrast because I have the two other mixes just to the side over here. So we're going to go in order. We'll do the chase last. That's obviously 0 of 5, so technically that'd be first. But we're going to go over here. The thing that's interesting about this series is it is exotic. I don't know if you'd call a 71 Porsche 911 an exotic car at this point. I definitely call it a very expensive collector car. But I don't know if you would call it exotic. Here's the back of it. You're seeing that that gold trim back here as well. There's the 5 cars. There is that for those that want it. If you're looking for it in stores, should be anytime soon. And here is the art. Julian Coyles, of course, in charge, the manager over there with the art. Looks really, really good. And here is the model. Porsche 71 Porsche 911. I guess we can pull out the chase too after we do this. This, I don't know if you'd call this a tribute racing livery. Obviously, it's. I think the theme here, or kind of the idea of this, and Exotic Envy, is that it is like a classic kind of racing vintage Porsche that someone would pay a cajillion dollars for in an auction and put it in their very exotic car collection. You know, only someone who could own a Bugatti would own a car like this. I think that's probably the theme, although I wouldn't call a vintage racing Porsche an exotic car necessarily. Nonetheless, I'm not going to complain. This is actually a really, really cool version, and I do like the colors and the deco on this one. The rim colors look really, really good. And then, of course, we'll just go ahead and move to it right now. The chase is a nice version of this. In this case, you know, sometimes the chase in black looks really good. Here's the art. You know, it kind of really brings a nice sharp element to it, but I have to think, you lose some of the vibe here with just the gray over black. Again, not complaining. It's a chase model. You can take it or leave it, really. But you know, it's obviously collectible because it's a chase. But it's, as far as the chases go, I wouldn't say this is the best one. But it's still, I mean, it's very cool looking, but it does lose some of its cool vintage vibes as a chase model. But I would have made Now this one is I mean, it's also got a vintage vibe to it. Maybe I would have made that the chase, even though, I don't know. Anyway, all right, let's just put those there. In fact, I'll just put these back, kind of. Well, who knows? All right, let's go to number 2. This one is definitely a worthy exotic, right? The Lamborghini Reventon Roadster. I said I was going to pull out these cars. So, okay, vintage race car. Let's go back. Vintage race car. I'm just doing these videos loosey-goosey lately. Vintage race car, the closest thing, and I think this would make sense, it goes from the exotic NV2, and it would be this Alfa Romeo, right? That would be the closest thing to some sort of vintage race car, like vintage classic Euro car, something like that. The 69 Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale. So that one would make sense. I guess it would be exotic from that perspective. So we'll just put that right up here. So that's a good comparison to the Porsche. I'd take the Porsche over the Alfa Romeo personally. All right, let's go back to this Lamborghini. This is the first time this gets a metal chassis. This casting has been out for, I think, a good 10, 15 years. It started in basic, then it moved over to speed machines very, very quickly. I'll have to maybe pull out the speed machines. Maybe I can. I don't know. Anyway, it's nice to see this in the plain orange with the black 5-spoke rims. That looks pretty nice in here. A casting that I could take or leave as well, but nice to see it. It makes sense in this. The art is probably the gem here. This casting was always a little awkward in the back. The wheel placement's not totally right, so it makes it look like it's like the wheels are a little too thin, a little too wagon wheelie on it. But it's not a terrible casting. Obvious comparison here. There was a Lamborghini in the exotic NV2, and it's a great casting. I've only seen it once since. The Lamborghini Essenza SCV12, right? Is that what it was called? In this metallic green, which looks really, really cool. Very much an exotic car, race car, track car. That was a neat casting, and I thought very well done. And of course, it was also the chase. And I thought that was proper as well, the way they did it in just the jet black, taking away all that detail. I thought it was a very, very cool car. So we'll put those up there. That one definitely wins over this Reventon. It's an okay casting. It's okay. Put that here. Put the Porsche here. The other Lamborghini, since we're here, and I think this is one of the best exotic NV cars they've done, is this one from exotic NV1. We'll call it NV1. It is the Huracan. And I love this one in bright green. Lamborghinis look really good in bright colors. And I love the fact they just don't put enough chrome rims on models in car culture. And so when it happens, they look really, really good. And this Lamborghini, I'd put this Lamborghini up as like maybe a top 10 or 15 car culture of all time model. It's that good with the chrome rims. I just really, really like it. So that one actually beats all the Lamborghinis so far in all 3 series of the exotic NV. All right, let's move to number 3. It is the BMW M1 Pro car. That art is so good. And I just wish that we had wheels that could replicate those wheels. I mean, chrome, some sort of, it would have been so cool. These aren't bad. But man, how good would that have looked? Anyway, this is obviously the BASF, we'll call it a tribute car, right? Because we don't see the BASF logo on there. BASF, but really, really cool. This one, I think I'm going to say this one, maybe the McLaren, but I'm going to say this one is my favorite of the set, obviously, because it just has that vintage racing vibe to it. Same thing, collector car. You could compare it to the Alfa Romeo. There's nothing, well, yeah, I think there's a collector car that could be compared to this. You could see this one go on auction for several $1 million, right? Something like that with the racing heritage like that. I think it's just a really, really cool model. This is an underused casting. We've seen it twice before. I think, is this maybe the 3rd time it's been used? I did pull out the Antisocial Social Club Get Weird version with the polka dots, which is actually, I pulled this one out because it's kind of a vintage racing vibe as well. And I thought that was cool. See, I think they should have used, even though some people don't like those lace wheels, they could have used those in chrome, and that might have been closer to that style. But anyway, I think that's a cool model. Probably my favorite of the set. The comparison, if we're going comparisons from exotic NV2, would be this one, the Bugatti, another very, very expensive $1 million collector car. Even though it doesn't have a racing heritage per se, it is a classic exotic and very much in the exotic realm. I really like this one too. one of my all-timers from the Exotic Envy set. Nice to see this one go from basic to premium, even in that just signature blue. So I think that's a comparison. I think I'm taking the Pro car if I'm doing the comparison there. All right, we've already seen the Chase here, so we'll move that over here, and we'll go to number 4. Aston Martin V12 Speedster. This was a basic last year, introduced last year, moves to premium. It looks... I did not care for the casting last time. This one definitely would be called an exotic. There's the art. You know, one of those windshield-less exotic, see it at Goodwood or something kind of cars. And so this one is very, very appropriate. I could care less about it, about the car itself. But as an Exotic Envy, this makes total sense. Wheels look awesome on this one. And so the casting does take a life of itself, a new life, I think, with this one. So I'm happy to have an example of it in premium. So I said I don't care about the real car, but I think this is a real nice choice for Exotic Envy, especially, you know, in a version of British Racing Green. I think that looks pretty good. Comparison, there's several here. Obviously, you could go the 2 Aston Martins. That one went from basic last, you know, then in one. And this is what made, I think, the first mix kind of disappointing. Is this is a nice casting, but this color and the wheels did not work of the Vulcan, and it was okay. So I would say that the V12 Speedster is better. And then we had the Valhalla. Is that what I'm called? Valhalla, I think that's what it's called. Not a great casting that was made for James Bond in basic and in premium. Has it been in basic? I think it has. And it's just, it doesn't work as a casting. So those were 2 kind of disappointments for the collectors. I think some won't be too excited about this. I could see this being a bit of a peg warmer, but you want at least one in the collection because it does look good. Another comparison, I think, even though we have a McLaren in the set, I think a nice one as like a kind of a showpiece type car would be the Speedtail. Another one I really like. So we'll use that as a comparison as well, outside of just the more exotic Aston Martins. But the McLaren Speedtail is that kind of like, you're not going to see it on the road pass you by, but you will see it at exotic car shows. And I really like the Speedtail casting. I just wish they would have put those the turbofan covers on there or something like that, whatever they call them, on the front of the wheels. But that one's cool. Basic's great. Like that casting. All right, last one. BMW Pro Car is my favorite. I really like the Porsche, but I may be going after this McLaren once I open it. It's a nice, clean version of the McLaren F1. Art is great, and a lot of people are calling this the Mr. Bean F1 because doesn't Mr. Bean, was it Rowan Atkinson? Is that his name? Who owns the, the actor who plays Mr. Bean owns a McLaren F1 in this color, and that's a tribute to that. I think officially or unofficially, officially a replica of that. I mean, it's a factory color, right? So they can do it. Love the 10 spokes on this one. We saw 10 spokes on the NFT McLaren, and we saw 5 spokes on the Jay Leno Garage version of the McLaren. I think this one wins for sure. Just super, super clean. Really, really nice deco on this one, and a really nice color on this one. Love the wheels. Just a great casting, and I'm really, really happy to see it in there. The comparisons, there's only 3 left. The obvious would be the McLaren Senna, another one very expensive, just kind of epic show car and race car, right? Track car. And then the only 2 I have left are the Koenigsegg, which was an older casting. I don't really have a comparison from this mix. And then, of course, the Bugatti Chiron from the very first mix, which was, again, a casting that had better wheels, I think, a lot of people, because the basic version of this is really good, but this one, the wheels don't totally work here on that one. All right. As far as sets go, I'm still going to say that Exotic Envy, we haven't had that home run Exotic Envy set yet. If you do the comparisons, let's see. So one, we'll just go through this. If you want to ditch this video at this point, you can. We'll just nerd out for a minute. Here's one. It was the Bugatti, the Vulcan, the Valhalla, which was the other one? Oh, obviously the Lamborghini, the Huracan, which I really liked, and the McLaren Senna. Of that set, Huracan and Senna I really, really liked. Both of those a lot. And then mix 2 was the EB110, which I really liked. whatever this one's called. I always forget. The Essenza, which I think is a great replica of a car I don't really care about, but the Chase was awesome, and then obviously the Chases were introduced there. Alfa Romeo really liked, not necessarily as an exotic envy model, but I thought it was great. Speedtail totally makes sense, and they used that factory color. And then the Koenigsegg, which people didn't like the kind of plain look on this one, and I'm still not totally convinced this is a great casting with the big wheels in the back, but it's cool. And it makes sense in this mix. I don't know. There are those first two mixes. This one is okay. This one probably a little better based on the choices in the new cars. Well, yeah, this one's definitely better, the second one. Third one, great. Actually really good. Great cars, but not necessarily exotic envy. I would say all three of those, or these two, like the Chase, the BMW, and the Porsche. And then the Lamborghini makes a ton of sense. We haven't had a home run yet, have we? We haven't had the exotic envy that, like, really, really, we need couple more like really good versions of the Bugattis. We need just the best of these three sets, and we'd have a good set, right? So, not complaining. Keep this theme going. Let's see Exotic Envy 4 and let's see what comes up from it. But this is a good mix. I think it's good art, good cars to add to the car culture collection. You guys tell me what you think. Thanks, everybody. Bye.